On this episode of El Tigre del Caribe, I once again hop a plane back to San Juan and end up back in my happy place, sitting right on the boat. Since this was more of a work trip, I really just wanted to knock out a few boat projects, some things I noticed on my last sailing trip to the Spanish Virgin Islands. Some of these projects are small, like adding and checking fluids in the engine room and installing a fruit hammock in the galley to save some room in the fridge. One of the first things I noticed was that there was a lot of rust forming on my tiller assembly. Nothing too bad, but when it comes to an important part like your steering tiller, rust is something you want to get way ahead of, especially on a boat. So I put a wire brush attachment on the drill and got to work grinding away all that nasty rust all over the assembly, or at least the parts I could get to. It kept on going round and round until we were left with nothing but smooth metal. So now that just about all that rust was gone, it was time to apply some anti-rust primer all over the assembly where I had grinded the rust off to try to make sure it doesn't come back. The next project I wanted to tackle was my Helm Chair, which was looking a little rough and had some wood rot spots. So I spackled it up with some marine grade sealant, and then I had to tape off all the wood trim, which is all made out of teak wood, and I wanted to make sure I didn't get any paint on it. So once the whole chair was taped off and I had the teak wood nice and protected, I got to work painting it. I put a few coats on it to make sure that I covered up all the scuff marks and sealant that I had applied. And I have to say, I was really happy with the finished product. It came out great. One of the things I noticed the last time I flew the jib sheet was that I wasn't able to raise it all the way up to the mast, and that was because the halyard had been incorrectly wrapped around the forestay. I had tried to fix it when I was at anchor, but the halyard clip had become so rusted and seized that I was not able to get it off, and was going to have to wait until I was back on shore. So I started off applying some heat with an acetylene torch, all while trying not to set the head of the sail on fire. And eventually I was able to get it hot enough to where I could pull off the halyard clip and properly route it to the port side of the forestay, so that way I'd be able to raise the jib all the way up to the mast. But before permanently reattaching the halyard clip, I wanted to get some penetrating oil on it to try to help keep it from rusting up and getting seized again. Then I permanently affixed it. The next thing on the list was this lead anchor shackle, which is far too big, and it doesn't fit through the pulley attached to the davit, which means that every time I pull the anchor up or down with the windlass, it often gets stuck, which is a big old pain in the butt. So I got to work with the torch again, trying to heat it up, and I mean, this thing, I got it red hot, okay? And no matter what I did, it would not come loose. I was yanking on it, I was hitting it with a maul, I was pulling on the pin with a set of channel locks, trying to twist it as hard as I could, but no matter what I tried, it was just seized so shut that it wasn't budging. Fortunately, the trailing shackle did respond to the heat, so with that and some elbow grease, I was able to get it off and replace it with a new one. But as for this big boy, I'm just going to have to cut it off on the next trip. I just don't see any other choice. So the final project of the week was going to be to try to get these old, tired-looking LED lights on the dinghy davits replaced. And I was able to find some on Amazon, and they were pretty easy to install, and I was very happy with the way they came out. They're a lot brighter, and they shine really good light on the dinghy as well as the cockpit. I plan on buying more of these and installing them under the Dodger to replace the old ones. All in all, it was a really productive week on El Tigre del Caribe, and although I wasn't quite ready to leave the island just yet, but let's face it, there's always going to be more work waiting for me when I come back. Hopefully you didn't get too bored watching me work this week, but if you like the videos that we're putting out, please consider helping us grow our channel by hitting like and subscribe. So until next time, remember, it's always more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy.